Hey guys, in this episode of We Fight How We Train, we're going to be taking a look at why Tony Harrison not only wasn't able to beat Tszyu, but he wasn't able to go 12 rounds with Tszyu either. Now, early story of the fight, excellent jab here, able to push Tszyu off, catching him here, easy punches, easy scoring shots. I don't want to say low effort, right? High risk, but relatively low effort. Your hand's already close. It's the best punch in boxing, right? The jab. And by using it effectively early in the fight, he was able to feint and get a lot of value out of that move because he was so quick with it. He could control Tszyu and keep him on the outside, feinting him here, feinting him there a little bit, and then feinting him here, and still finding opportunities to score with that jab and keep Tszyu on the outside. And notice, Tszyu not really in a position to counter here, okay? Because the punch is so fast and he's using so much of his body mechanics to avoid it, to avoid losing that point, he doesn't find himself in a position to counter him. Now, why did Tszyu wind up kicking his butt then? Well, the reason is because after Tszyu was past the jabbing range, and Harrison can't just throw the jab the whole time. He has to throw the rear hand. So when he throws this shot here, we can see this defense here in round 5 from Tszyu, where he kind of shoulder rolls that, pulls back, and comes back with an uppercut, okay? And Tszyu had been kind of perfecting and learning to do this move against Tony Harrison kind of all fight. And here we're going to get to see him shoot it off the 1. He catches that, pulls on to the 2, and then catches him with an excellent shot here. But what I want you guys to pay attention to is Tony Harrison's back foot. Okay, so he jumps forward, gets into a decent punching structure, throws the right hand, and now after throwing his punch, his back foot is going to kind of drag forward, okay? And again, one thing that I've been talking about a lot lately is because it's so important when you're teaching technique is that everything we do with our whole body, okay? And as soon as Tony Harrison throws that right hand and his foot comes up off the ground, he can't throw any more punches because he doesn't have access to his 2-foot punching structure. It's not just that we can obviously see that his body is busy doing something else, dragging away. It's that he absolutely cannot drive from both of his feet to drive weight into a punch. So he can't really make an offensive move from this position. Tony Harrison, mostly an offensive fighter, doesn't really catch and block punches super well. He interacts with punches okay, but because he doesn't do that stuff, he just doesn't have access to very many moves, okay? And because of the fact that his leg comes up off the ground and now he can't do anything, he can't really pull, he can't really get his weight to the ground because he's swinging, it means that Tszyu can come forward as long as he can maintain this type of control after Tony Harrison punches, right, throwing this punch, and he can beat him to that punch. He can alienate Harrison from wanting to find himself in this position, and that lowers his overall activity rate, meaning that he has to use more and more jabs to control space. And as soon as he stops controlling space, I know this is from earlier, real quick, I just wanted to show you guys. Here's Tszyu throwing a front foot hook right here, just, check it out, 2-foot punching theory, just driving from both feet. And able to get past Tony Harrison's control, right? And again, Tony Harrison's not able to interact with him with the right hand. He's afraid if he throws it, he's going to fall off balance. So Tszyu able to kind of throw this punch here up close kind of for free, okay? Now, what happens when Tszyu gets too close? Well, here we have Tony Harrison trying to interact with him with the jab, and it's not always going to be effective. He's able to parry it here, make it to the body here, and then go with the right hand over the top. And because Tony Harrison doesn't really block punches like I talked about earlier, he doesn't really keep his left hand up in position to interact with the line. He tries to block everything with the shoulder. He can't get away from this shot once Tszyu gets into striking range. As soon as Tszyu gets into position where all he needs to do is just snap, as soon as Harrison's on the line with that right hand, Tszyu can just snap into it, and Tony Harrison doesn't have enough time to react because he doesn't have his hand up. So once Tszyu can find a way to interact with the jab positively, he can get around it and get onto the line with Harrison, and Harrison has to continue using just the jab because it's his quote-unquote safest move, because we saw what happens when he throws his right hand, right? Now again, other moves here, coming onto the line and then just smashing him with the right hand. And now I do want to say that some of these did wind up looking more toward the back of the head. I think one of them late in the fight winds up being kind of similar to that. But once Tszyu makes it past Tony Harrison's line. Once he makes it past the initial defense of the jab, Harrison didn't have very much left, and that just allowed Tszyu to have to worry about just the jab. And once he could do that effectively, right, get into a position where he can control the jab with his rear hand and not get hit with it, like we saw in the previous clip, he could just walk onto Harrison's line, very low effort, and just start smashing him. Okay, now we got one more little clip here. Oh, this is him just using the jab and just destroying Tszyu on early in the fight before Tszyu could really get a hold of it or try to. He did catch him with a counter right hand here, kind of clipped him a little bit. But now we're going to take a look at Tony Harrison training here, okay? And what I want you guys to pay attention to is how when he throws that right hand, here he comes, his back foot comes up off the ground. Okay, and because he's not actually driving off the ball of the back foot, he's trying to roll into it from the back foot and use some of the momentum, but now he's not striking, right? Because he's using so many of his mechanics to kind of roll into it. He's not really driving up the moment of impact when he smashes into the bag. And that stops him from being on balance. And that's the reason why Tszyu was so able to pull away from him and counter him. Now, real quick, if we talk about that, just show those clips real quick. Take a look at Tszyu on the front foot, pulls to the back foot with the right hand, and now when he rolls forward, he's on the ball of the back foot and the heel of the front foot. Okay, he's creating a front foot footwork structure, and he's driving into that uppercut. And notice he doesn't come off the ground because he's striking at that moment, and then he's immediately able to get back off the line, right? Something that Tony Harrison is not, right? Here's Tony Harrison's right hand, right? And watch the timing in which he leaves the line. It's the same as Tszyu, and Tszyu's going to throw his rear hand, boom, boom, and they get off the line at the same time. But Tszyu is able to throw his punch and then get off the line in the same amount of time that it takes Harrison just to get off the line, just to get his balance after his throwing of his right hand. Again, Tony Harrison abandoning his correct footwork structure, not being in contact with the ground, and it stops him from being able to defend himself after he throws his right hand. And again, all of that is just simple technical problem and technical understanding of how your striking works, okay? Because everything starts from the ground up, okay? Everything starts from the ground up, and without a connection to the ground and the kinetic chain, you don't really have the ability to really move or change positions in the ring. You have nowhere to go because your head can only be in between your legs, right? And you have to have your legs on the ground in order for them to be in between your legs and in order to go from side to side. So anyway, yeah, a very, very simple idea, right? Being able to drive at that moment and then get back to a footwork structure which you can roll or defend yourself or pull counter. Relatively simple fix like that, very simple mechanical fix in your training can have such a huge impact on the fight, right? Now, say he fixed that, right? And then he could throw more rear hands and score, right? We still don't know exactly how the fight would play out because then we'd have to see a different Tszyu. Then we would see a different Tszyu than the one that we did, someone who had to interact with the right hand more often. Even though we saw that he had a really, really, really great back foot uppercut for that shot. Even though he did roll kind of toward the front foot, his footwork shouldn't change. But a really good trap for the right hand as long as he could see it coming. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, it was a pretty fun fight, and I thought that Tony Harrison had, even though I did pick him to get knocked out. So I was not necessarily surprised. I thought that he fought a little bit better than I thought he was going to be capable of. His jab was more effective than I thought it would be. In terms of speed and scoring, but I knew Tszyu was going to figure it out eventually anyway. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, yada, yada, yada. If you guys want someone to analyze your training footage and make sure you're on the correct path, you're doing the right things, check out my Patreon. We do weekly film studies, breakdowns, pre-fight, post-fight. Yeah, so check it out. Also, if you guys want to learn, if you thought what I said was interesting about 2-foot punching, that's a Fouts boxing theory that I created, a way that I teach striking so that you can learn with the absolute best mechanics how all your punches work. And it's starts from the ground up, teaching you guys that you punch with both feet is the freebie. right? If you want to learn exactly what Ryan Garcia does to generate power with his left hand, I can teach you how to do it with both hands. If you want to know exactly what it is that Tank Davis does to be so fast and hit so hard, check out the Fouts Boxing Combat System. I will teach you what I call the Big George drill, how to develop snap, how to develop real punching power like you've never seen before, like you've never felt. Real punching power. Punching power that they say that cannot be taught. I will guaranteed teach you. Again, if you've never heard of 2-foot punching and you don't understand the concept, don't worry. This is how all great punchers punch. Okay? So check it out. It's the first step in learning to understand how real punching power works. And then you just got to figure out what to do with your hands and your head and your shoulders. And check out the video series. I'll teach you what to do with all of it.